Inflation hit an 8-year high of 7.79% in April, and it's worse than expected as RBI considers more rate hikes. Data released earlier today show that the figure jumps more than 80 basis points from March and breaches the RBI comfort level for a fourth straight month. Food inflation rose to a whopping 8.10%, with oils and fats, vegetables and spices skyrocketing. Transportation and household goods also rose nearly 10% in April. The inflation is the highest since May 2014, when it hit 8.33%. Our managing editor Siddharth Zarabi spoke with Madan Sabnavis, Chief Economist, Bank of Baroda, and Bhaskar Panda, Executive VP Treasury at HDFC Bank, to analyze the numbers.
Very clearly, these numbers a significant worry. And Madan Sabnavis, I come to you first. The numbers of April at 7.79%, I argue, could have been even higher, and this was something that Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta Das had spoken about earlier. These could have been higher if daily petrol and diesel price movements had been permitted. As you are aware, for the last 36 days, petrol and diesel pump prices have remained frozen again. Is the situation therefore far worrying than even these numbers at 7.79%, the latest reading that it portrays?
No, I think there is some comfort in the fact that the international price of crude has tended to stabilize. So I think this business of not changing the daily price for 30 plus days makes a lot of sense, because that at least reduces the noise in the market. But the fact remains that there has been a lot of stability. The kind of threat which we had earlier of crude oil price going up to $140, $150 per barrel does not look a reality right now. And I think there is reason for one to get some kind of comfort. Though I think in the current situation where the rupee has started depreciating, there is a kind of a double whammy which is there on the import side. So while the crude oil price per se may not be a concern for us today, definitely with the rupee depreciating, the rupee value tends to increase at the time it comes to be on the table to be taxed by the government.
I'll come back to you in a bit, but going to Mr. Panda. Bhaskar Panda, the issue really is that we are now seeing what would be clearly a very uncomfortable set of circumstances, as Madan was also pointing out, due to the way the rupee is also now behaving. And if we see the monthly build-up pretty much from 4.35% in the month of September, this steep spike in inflation and close to 8% and perhaps more, how difficult is the price situation from a control perspective at this point of time?
So you have to take it in perspective. We are in a situation where we are just coming out of pandemic. Secondly, we are into another war which is disrupting the supply situation across the world. Third, we all know that all these things.
Right.
So we have got both supply side shocks, as well as, in India, at least I can say very clearly that there is a demand pull inflation as well. So both these things are known to everyone. I think RBI is aware about it. Everybody is aware about it. Second thing, if you look at the inflation numbers across the globe, including the number that we saw in US, they are overshooting any target for the time being. So therefore, this is nothing new as far as India concerned, and we all know that, still having maybe a couple of percentage points here and there, everybody agrees the situation right now. Now, how to control that and bring it back to, the expected range that, RBI has been targeting is something which we all have seen the action from RBI's front by increasing mid-way their repo rates, reverse repo rates, CRR, everything. So maybe some more tightening is there in the cards, and that might be a little bit helpful in, bringing down these prices.
Okay. I'm coming to you, Madan, on that very last point that Bhaskar Panda made. Some more tightening will help, and I would agree with him, especially for the demand pull side of inflation. But there is a very significant supply side impact also. What would you argue needs to be done beyond the extraordinary out-of-policy hike that the RBI did recently?
No, I think what you're saying, Siddharth, is right. When we're increasing interest rates, all that we're doing is that excess demand forces which would have built up are being curbed by making the cost of capital high. But if we're looking at at what has really been driving the prices, I think they're more on the supply side. Though, of course, I think supply and demand both go together. If you have not enough demand, the supply side issues will never have come up. So that one can always argue that way. But suppose we assume that RBI has increased the rates. Can it bring down the prices of fuel? The answer is no. The government may probably have to lower the taxes out there. Can the prices of vegetables and edible oils come down? To a certain extent, yes. In case the harvest is good, prices of vegetables will definitely come down. And in case the global situation improves, there's a possibility of edible oil prices coming down. But they will definitely not revert to what they were earlier. If you look at the third category of commodities, which are the MRP-driven commodities, which could be manufacturing, but could also be services, I think lots of the companies which have announced their results have said that they're in the process of passing on the higher input costs to the consumer. The first round is over, they're in the process of doing it for the second round. Now, I think these are the prices which will never come down. So we may have a situation where statistically we could be having the inflation number moving downwards because of the base effect, but the absolute prices which I have to pay for my toothpaste or for my shaving cream or for my detergent, those are not really going to come down. So we're going to have this kind of a situation for a longer period of time.
This situation for a longer period of time, that's a stark point. And in fact, since you were talking about companies and what they are doing, let's also listen into what Sanjeev Puri, the CMD of one of India's largest FMCG companies, ITC, had to say to my colleague Ashutosh Mishra. Let's take a quick listen in.
Okay, inflation unprecedented hai, and it is not just to do with one product. You see, it is inflation is across a range of things. Energy and food both are impacted. So there is, all of us, including in ITC, are focused on tightening our belts. We're looking at efficiencies. We're looking at new pack formats. We're looking at new packaging sizes, and also finding out some innovative solutions and a combination of pricing action.
Prices कब तक कम हो सकता है? जनता को बड़ी उम्मीद है.
I think it's you see, the situation is extremely uncertain, and therefore for anybody to predict is very difficult. So therefore I would of course, I do get a little sense that it will over time cool off as things normalize.
Panda, you heard Sanjeev Puri and that very short clip of an interview that the India Today group has done with Sanjeev Puri. Prices कब तक कम हो सकते हैं? What my colleague is really trying to ask is, and I'm asking you in turn, will the build-up in inflation come down anytime soon? Or would you tend to agree with what Madan is saying, that we are perhaps in a bit of a tight spot for at least a few more months?
So I agree with Madan to a very large extent. The base effect Madan spoke about is very correct. The trajectory of inflation may not come down immediately, given the situation that we are in, as I said in my very first opening remark. Nobody can predict when the war is going to go over. Nobody can predict, whether China will come back into, supplying whatever they are supplying to the entire world post the COVID lockdown. So it's a little bit of a, not little bit, actually a lot of uncertainty and a lot of things needs to be tackled at the same time.
Right.
So it's a very difficult situation. This may persist in foreseeable future. I don't think anybody can predict when it is going to end or come below, RBI's, inflation range. But hopefully with, interest rate rising, cost of capital going up, so on and so forth. So maybe we'll be able to kind of, arrest it. We cannot say that it will come down further towards 6% or so, but probably the rise in inflation, the way it has been rising, probably that can be arrested.
Well, it's a carnage on the Lal Street. Markets today slipping to a 10-month low. The sell-off, which has been on for quite some time, is now intensifying with each passing day. Sensex has fallen nearly 2,000 points this week. Nifty also crashing about 630 points in the past 5 days. The bear run on the bourses entering its 5th straight day, with the benchmark sliding over 2% each. Sensex tumbling below 53,000, Nifty giving up 16,000. Soaring inflation and the dwindling global economic recovery spooking the markets. Rising crude oil prices and US inflation now at a 40-year high, leading to a complete sell-off. Rupee also plummeting to a record low today, making investors jittery. Continued FPI outflows, Fed and RBI taking a hawkish stance, some of these factors hurting market sentiment. In the crash, investors have lost 19 lakh crores in the last 5 days. Take a look at how markets have fared so far this week. Nifty has declined over 5%. Nifty mid-cap tumbling over 7.5%. It's the small caps, of course, which have taken a beating, declining a whopping 15%. Today, over 45 Nifty stocks closed in the red. We caught up with market veteran Shankar Sharma to understand what investors should do amid the ongoing turmoil in stock markets.
Where is the hiding place in this current scenario of markets? Is it the large caps? Is it commodities? Where are you looking at this, buying opportunity really?
There are no hiding places in a market meltdown. So to be clear, all of us are losing money. Even I'm losing money. I'm looking at my P&L. It's not making me feel very good. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is inevitable that you will lose some money. It is not possible to survive a bear market with actually positive returns unless you were smart enough to buy put options or short the market, which very, very few people are. Otherwise, there is no room to hide, face the market. Buy stocks, if you want one-line advice, buy stocks that are holding up well in this. So you have to buy strength, don't buy weakness. Most people tend to sell their good stocks and buy stocks which have fallen a lot. That's usually not a wise strategy. So you should buy strength in a bear market. Usually those stocks will bounce back much quicker.
Okay. But since you are a global investor too, I want to understand from you, which are the markets still looking firm at this point in time, more attractive than the others at this point in time? And is India a top, one of those top lists as well?
India is probably the best one right now. In my opinion, India appears the safest market. Not that you will not lose money, but you will lose the least money as long as you've broadly done a good job of your portfolio. You will lose the least money in India. If you look at the US, which has been a phenomenal market last 7-8 years, and you look at the carnage there, it is unbelievable where quality stocks like a Facebook or an Amazon, they're all down between 30 and 50%. In the last 8-9 months' time. I mean, that kind of carnage, we have not seen anywhere close to that in the quality end of the market in India. And many new age tech stocks are down 80-90%, even 95%. So India is still the best place to be in. So in that extent, Indians should be thankful that they are invested in India.
How are you looking to at your personal portfolio at this point in time amid the recent correction? Are you fully invested right now? Are you looking for opportunities? Is there a rejig between equity and debt? How are you looking at it so that a wider audience can understand this?
Yeah, so I mean, I have started to move a bit from fixed income to equities now. I still believe there is pain ahead for equities. But that obviously means that the pain has to be taken advantage of. And I am beginning to, sell a bit of fixed income and, rotate a bit into equities. But, I mean, we have a bit of time. We don't have to rush into any big decisions right now. Obviously, the ones we own, the ones I own, are getting hit. They will get hit. I mean, that's part and parcel. It doesn't make anybody happy, but, we will ride it out.
Let's take a very quick break. Back with more on the other side.
यहाँ पे जो आज का डे मनाया जाता है ये फिशिंग के लिए मनाया जाता है। इससे हमारे दो फ़ायदे होते हैं। एक तो लोग यहाँ पे फ़िश पकड़ते हैं। इस दिन हमारा एक ख़ास त्यौहार होता है जिसको कश्मीरी में रहन पोश बोलते हैं। दूसरा, इससे ये जो हमारी वाटर बॉडी है पांचनाग, ये जो 500 चश्मों पे मुश्तमिल है, इसकी सफाई होती है, इसकी एक तरह से डिसल्टिंग होती है। एज ए लोकल हम चाहते हैं ये जो हमारी यहाँ वाटर बॉडीज़, लोकल वाटर बॉडीज़ है, गवर्नमेंट को चाहिए कि खास तवज्जो दे, इसके लिए खास प्रपोजल बनाए सो दैट कि इनको फ्यूचर में सेफ रखा जाए। ये जो लोकल यहाँ पे इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, अगर वो इन्वॉल्व ना होंगे इसमें तो मुश्किल से 2 साल, 3 साल, 4 साल इन वाटर बॉडीज़ को निकलेंगे, अदरवाइज़ ये ख़त्म हो जाती।
अजुक दोह यह नागस अम मूजूब कर यह दोह नुमुत तिकाज अत मे दोह सफाई गसान तिकाज इस अत कोल क्रूल क्या क्योम व्योम क्या गंद चीज आसान।
You are watching India.
Welcome back. Well, it's a sea of red everywhere you look. The rupee hitting a record low of 77.63 against the US dollar, but was able to recover to shut shop at 77.4. The rupee plummeted over increasing concerns over inflation globally. Jamal Maklai, CEO at Maklai Financial, joining me now. Jamal, what's happening with the rupee? It seems to be in free fall.
You know, first and foremost, you say it's in free fall. I don't know that it's in free fall. It fell through 77. It's sitting there, right? RBI is protecting. And so free fall is not a word I would use. Free fall is when there's nothing holding it back. And I think what you need to look at is what are the issues, right? Why is the rupee falling, right? Well, very obviously, because the current account is weak. The dollar is very, very strong. Dollar interest rates are going up and money is leaving India, right? Now, to my mind, last week when RBI made, did that out of meeting rate hike, to me that gave it away, right? Because a month before they didn't say anything about inflation. Suddenly they jump up the rates. I think that was because that evening the Fed was to raise rates. With the Fed's raising rates, the rupee would fall. And I think it would seem to me that they are trying, they were having trouble protecting the rupee. Okay? So they raised rates. Okay. It fell, but they've been able to hold it. Now, how much longer is that going to happen? I don't know. It really depends on how much longer the crisis continues. Now, you tell me. It's not going to end tomorrow. That's clear, right? The problem in Ukraine, which is a horrible problem in Ukraine, continues. Inflation is an issue. And most important, sentiment has turned, right? So, the Fed is going to raise rates, but to my mind, they're behind the curve. RBI is almost irrelevant in the game, right? So, so I would say we have to brace for continued volatility.
So what kind of range then are we looking at here, Jamal? What can we expect from the currency?
You go back to 2008, right? When the rupee was in then it was free fall. We lost 20% of our reserves. And by a coincidence, I think, the rupee fell by 20%, from 42 to 50. Today, we have lost 9% of our reserves from a level of 73. So the rupee could go 79.50, But there is no real science behind that. I'm just saying that because you're asking. Everybody wants to know kya hone wala. And the only answer is nobody knows. But it is certainly not going to strengthen anytime soon.
Jamal Maklai there on the currency, saying that volatility will continue. It's a bloodbath across global crypto markets. Bitcoin and Ethereum are seeing a steep loss. A whopping $200 billion has been erased from the crypto market in a day as the sell-off intensifies. Investors are fleeing from crypto at a time when stock markets have plunged from the highs that they hit during the pandemic on fears of soaring prices and a deteriorating economic outlook. Sakshi Batra standing by with more details.
The global cryptocurrency market seems to have landed itself in a free fall, with prices of several top tokens falling to new lows now. The global crypto market's value has also plummeted about 13% in the last 24 hours alone to $1.2 trillion. And from its all-time highs of over $3 trillion seen in November 2021, it is nothing less than a bloodbath. The world's largest and the most popular cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, has in fact lost 30% of its price value in the last 7 days and is seen trading below $28,000 as well. Now it is down over 59% from all-time highs of over $68,000 seen in November 2021. Ethereum, for example, has slipped over 35% in the last 7 days, but is down 60% from all-time high levels. Binance is also down almost 39% in the last 7 days and has crashed 60% from all-time highs as well. The Ripple, the XRP, is also down almost 90% from all-time high levels. Now, data on CoinMarketCap also shows that Terra Luna, which was one of the top gaining cryptos just a few days ago, has lost over 99% of its value from all-time high levels. So why are these cryptocurrencies really crashing so sharply? That's the question we're asking. Well, one, US Fed rate hike. The other, central banks also raising the rates. All of this is pushing investors to pull out money from riskier assets like stock markets and cryptocurrencies. Second of all, it's the dollar index which is rising, leading to safe haven flows in the dollar versus other currencies or assets. Also, there is lower liquidity in the system now, with more and more central banks withdrawing excess money from the markets. Now, low crypto volumes is another reason. There is lower demand right now, which is also leading to a sharp sell-off. The sharp sell-off in Terra Luna, which also is another cryptocurrency, which has fallen 99%, has also triggered this sharp decline in the whole market. So what should really investors do at this point in time? Well, most of the financial advisors are advising investors to really stay away from catching the falling knife right now in crypto market. They believe that high taxation in India has already made investing in cryptocurrencies quite unattractive now. While for those still wanting to buy the dips, crypto experts believe only investors with very high risk appetite and deep pockets can look at investing at these levels.
Tata Sons taps aviation veteran Campbell Wilson to lead Air India. Campbell Wilson has been appointed as the new Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Air India. He resigned as CEO of Scoot, the wholly owned low-cost subsidiary of Singapore Airlines. Wilson has 26 years of aviation industry expertise across both full-service and low-cost airlines. He's worked for the Singapore Airlines Group for more than 15 years. He had started off as a management trainee back in New Zealand in '96 with SIA. Notably, SIA is a partner in Vistara, an airline owned by the Tatas. Earlier this year, Tata Group had named Turkish Airlines chairman İlker Ayçi as Air India's CEO and MD, but he subsequently denied the position. The situation in Sri Lanka is going from bad to worse. Political decisions and instability have led to economic chaos, and it's the person on the street who's bearing the full brunt of inflation and shortages. Look at this ground report sent from Colombo by our reporter Akshay Nath.
If you think that these vehicles have been halted because of a traffic jam, well, you're mistaken. This is the traffic, the queue for filling petrol and diesel into their vehicles. What we are seeing here in Sri Lanka is immense shortage of fuel, and vehicles have to wait for hours together to get their petrol tanks filled. We're seeing here on the pavements, two-wheelers have been parked and people have been waiting for hours together, hoping that they will be able to get at least a little bit of fuel to ensure that they can go about with their day-to-day activities. This is one of the tragic scenarios that we're seeing in Sri Lanka since this economic crisis that started recently. Even the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation had stated that they will temporarily suspend the providing fuel, but now we're seeing that though Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is now providing vehicles with petrol, many people have been waiting for hours together, leaving everything apart just to get their petrol tanks filled. Sir, you've been waiting for hours together. You were telling me that since last night you're here. How has the scene been?
Yeah, I've been here since last night, and just a couple of minutes ago only we managed to get a fuel tank, and so unfortunate situation for Sri Lankans because we are wasting our valuable time just for nothing, and a lot of man hours being wasted.
It's just a couple of hours of relief from curfew that the residents of Colombo have, and they're making the most of it. And though stark reminders of the violence and rioting of the previous days still remains, the citizens of the capital city are ensuring their lives go on.
Because of the increase in prices of the fuel, that has also impacted the prices of vegetables, is what we're being told. We're being told that cabbages are sold for around 400 rupees, which was earlier on 200. And similarly, we're being told that beans is being sold for 550 rupees, which was earlier only around 400 or 350 rupees. So these kind of increase is what is affecting the people of Lanka. The curfew has been lifted temporarily for a couple of hours. People have stepped out to buy essentials for their homes, but it is getting extremely difficult as the prices of essential commodities are on the rise. With camera person Divyan from Colombo, this is Akshana for India Today.
And that's how we leave it on the show tonight. Thanks for watching.
Artemis 1 is NASA's effort for an unmanned mission to the moon's surface. Block 1, the basic version of the Space Launch System, is NASA's heavy launcher. At its top is the Orion spacecraft. Orion goes into orbit around the Earth. It is the immediate cryogenic propulsion stage that will give Orion the big thrust needed to leave the Earth's orbit and head for the moon. To navigate in space, Orion will be powered by a service module that also generates air and water for astronauts on future missions. Orion will approach around 100 kilometers from the moon and will take advantage of its gravitational force to reach a distant orbit at about 70,000 kilometers from the moon between 6 to 19 days. Once Orion's performance has been analyzed, the module will head back to Earth, taking advantage of the moon's gravitational pull. NASA will conduct scientific experiments in deep space with several nanosatellites deployed during this mission. If the results of this mission are validated, it will be followed by the Artemis 2 mission, which will carry 4 astronauts around the moon on board the Orion spacecraft.
When it's the world's biggest news story, there's only one gold standard of journalism.
Presented by Ebix Cash. हर खुशी के लिए काफी है.
You are watching India Today.